Hello, everybody. It's Michelle here with Angel Souls, and this is our weekly angelic message for the week beginning November 24th, 2025. If you would like a personal reading with me, go to angelsouls444.com. If you would like to try to schedule a live session, email me at angelsouls444@gmail.com. The readings are not available in every country, okay? So be very careful before you sign up if you're outside of the U.S. U.S. is good. I believe most sections of Canada, pretty good. Australia is usually pretty good. I can double check that though. So just please be mindful about that before you sign up for a reading. Okay. Now, let's see what is going on this week, what we have coming up. Okay. So I felt a lot of like raw emotion coming up there for a second. So that's why I always take a deep breath anyway, but even more so now. So this card is soulmate. Now, if you followed me for any length of time, I don't really get into the whole typical image of soulmates. A soulmate is someone that you're going to learn from, that you have a soul contract with, but that soulmate could be someone you talk to for 30 seconds in the street and they say something really profound and you're changed because of something they said, one statement that they said, right? They can be romantic, obviously, but that doesn't always mean that it's a good thing. Well, it's a good thing in that you guys are learning from each other, but I think this soulmate idea gets sort of twisted with this idea that it's this endless obsessive love and we just have to come together or we're not, fulfilling our life's purpose or some nonsense like that. That's not what's going on. Okay. A soulmate is someone, it's another soul that's coming in to learn from you. You are learning from them. They don't always stick around. It doesn't mean that you've made it and you don't need to grow anymore through relationships. And if you're like, Michelle, you just deflated everything that was lovely about the idea of soulmates. Yes, there can be a romantic soulmate connection with someone as well. So let's get the whole picture here. Focus. So in that card, whenever these cards come out, I look at the imagery. And here we have some white roses. So white lilies, that would be a symbol of Gabriel. When we have roses or the scent of rose around, it's usually Archangel Barachiel coming in and showing that there are blessings coming through. This feels more like people on the other side. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 white roses being depicted here. And the card is focus. I'm hearing there's a little bit of interference from the other side for some of you. That's tricky, and that's not usually the type of mediumship I do. So point is that if you are still being affected by something that, someone who's crossed over to the other side once said to you, think, I guess most people would think like, oh, if it's somebody who raised you or influenced you, don't just think about the obvious. All right. I don't know. For some of you, it's a family member that's already passed over. For others of you, I hate to go dark and deep with this, but for some of you, it is like an abuser that has crossed over. And there's this feeling of being free. Again, that's just for some of you. Now, that does not mean that person was your soulmate. No, that's not what we're saying here. What I'm saying is that there seems to be some divine interactions going on that are helping you get through something difficult. And there's support here. There's support here in helping you to get your focus back, to focus on where you want to head in life. So it feels like for a lot of you watching this, there was some sort of derailment. Okay. Now, this card is intention. Focused intention. Focused intention. So while I'm getting the message that a lot of you have some healing bubbling up to the surface, in general, as this is a general reading, if you want that personal reading, that information was in the beginning of this video. If you're drawing in a love partner, Be careful with that. Okay. Make sure you are manifesting from the place of purity, pure intention. Yes. And from the heart space, not just the mind, because the mind, the ego is going to tell you, well, I want someone super hot. They got to be rich and they got to be hot and they got to, you know what I mean? Which is fine. But will the emotional connection be there? Okay. See, that's what people do. They go to the physical. What will the physical connections be like? Our physical realm connection be like? Oh, and meditation. So, a lot of things going on here. A lot of distractions. A lot of throwing you off balance. And you guys are regaining control here. But this isn't like in a spiritual sense. So if someone has tried to steal your peace, you know how that goes. They try to steal your peace, you're taking it back. And this has to do with, I'm not going to let a story define me. I'm not going to let, a person define me. I'm going to reconnect with divine energy. Yes. So make this a priority. And I will admit to all of you, if you watch my social media posts, my community did have something horrific and unimaginable happen. And, it can really get you shaken. It can really, just make you forget to connect. And it can throw you very quickly into a surface level sort of survival scenario for some. For others, it was a huge reminder of what they have been through. And then you have people, when you try to talk about it, and test yourself right now in what I'm about to say, who want to just sidestep everything. They don't want to talk about it. And I think those days need to be done, where people aren't allowed to talk about what they've been through or what they are still experiencing as a result. Now, I'm not talking about actual trauma dumping. I'm not talking about people who love to just swirl around in their victimhood because it gets them attention. I'm talking about people who have genuinely been through some stuff and they never talk about it. And then when it does come up, someone tries to change the subject or glaze over it, or they start another conversation, or, trying to pull focus. Again, got that focus card. That is the kind of example I think this time is opening up for you, where it's like, no, I'm not going to let anyone deter me from being my best self, from being healed. I'm not going to let someone, here's another scenario. A lot of us here in the U.S., we have the holiday season here, right? We have Thanksgiving coming up and people will be with their families. And, I used to, when there was like a bigger part of my family that would get together for that holiday, there would always be at least a couple of people who wanted to come and remind me of a time when I wasn't successful, or a time when I was struggling, or a time where, and maybe it was like the silliest thing, like there was a misunderstanding, but, remember what a fool you made out of yourself because you didn't understand what they were saying, like just stuff like that. So I think a lot of people, we're in this time now where, we have to make sure that we are centered, grounded, in alignment. I'm sure the comments are going to be filled with people talking about how much they can't stand their families. I get it. Taking your power back. That's really what we're talking about here. So this is actually quite a lovely time. This is, I think, a very beneficial time, but it doesn't necessarily equate to it being pleasant. Why is that? Because there are some hurdles to get over. There are, I just heard stark contrast. So something is probably popping up this week for you that gives you stark contrast, where it's like the realization of what really matters comes up. It is that old kind of saying of I'm choosing to be happy, but not in a sidestepping kind of way. Please do not be a part of the problem out in this world when others are trying to go through a process like this and you're trying to stop it because you just want to keep everything airy-fairy, light and fluffy. I can promise you that if you aren't in there processing your own stuff, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. I have spoken numerous times on the spiritual warfare that's going on and has been going on. And that very much has to do with energetic sacrifice. And that is where you have beings working through others to get at you. Now, I know it's like, Michelle, we're feeding people's paranoia. No, but I mean, there are just some things that are just inexplicable. Why would one person be such a target? Think about it. Why would people want to hate before they get to know someone? We could go on and on. We have a very problematic holiday here in the U.S. coming up, right? Now, a lot of us have, I know I do. I make sure I do some sort of gratitude practice to all the people that were here before me. I did learn about a spirit plate, but I will leave it up to Native people to explain that. But I do try to give some sort of offering and some sort of love and just know, let spirit know that I'm aware. But yeah, this is just a time where you got to see what's really going on here. And power doesn't mean that you win an argument. Power doesn't mean that you win the surface level game situation, whatever it is. It is spiritual warfare. Where can you not allow something to rattle you? And it's so funny because these situations will occur where maybe something becomes a problem. Okay, you guys know that a couple of my social media platforms for about a month went down. And again, I'm just kind of like a spiritual person, so maybe I'm just a little biased and I just see everything from a spiritual standpoint. But I was like, I see it. This is meant to get me stressed and rattled and to drain me. And I was irked, but I wasn't going to let it get me down. There are plenty of other social media platforms out there that I could go and master, So I was like, whatever. I just let it go. I put it, pushed the buttons and I did all the, hey, this isn't right. I did that. But then I just didn't let it infiltrate me. And oh my, if I didn't get a message saying, hey, oops, our mistake, everything's back. No problem. Right? So when those situations hit you in your life, this isn't about, let me tune into, angels and archangels and they're going to fix my life. As a matter of fact, a lot of you want to be very, very careful with what kind of beings you're either becoming very codependent with or who you're actually talking to. Right? We're not supposed to be worshiping angels. That's not the deal. And I would even go so far as to tell you to be careful about what kind of God you're worshiping. Think about the truest, most balanced, most wise, the wisest, most caring, loving presence that you can possibly remember in this human body. And that would be the experience of that higher power. Not one that wants to harm, obviously, or would ever tell you to harm anybody, obviously. And harming comes by way of judgment. So bear that in mind. I'm going to be getting the dailies up here. Make sure you're watching the dailies with the weekly. Leave your comments down below. I am sending you all so much love and take care.